Hola, and welcome to Vive Nutrition Radio, the first ever Spanglish podcast where you will hear interviews with the top minds in nutrition, performance, fitness, and health in both English and Spanish. Here is your host, expert registered dietitian, Andres Ayesta, on a mission to help you take your nutrition to the next level. Hope you're ready for this. Let's dive right in.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Vive Nutrition Radio. If you're watching this, obviously this because there's a video version of it. If you're not, we are actually, well, you're probably listening to this on, maybe your car or something like that. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Andres Ayesta. If you don't know me yet, I'm a registered dietitian, and I have here right in front of me or right next to me, I have Tony Castillo, another registered amazing dietitian. So what's going on, man?
He's lying. Actually, what's next to him is a fluffy pillow that I'm rubbing, and it feels amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if this is too manly, so we're gonna change the fluffy pillow, this thing. We're gonna replace it for something more masculine. There you go, now gray.
It's like a potato sack color.
Yeah, man. I think it's good. I think we're just probably gonna record this. But anyways, today we're gonna have a pretty fun topic. I think it's fitting to the time that we're recording this because we're talking about getting back to school. We left school a long time ago, but we're here to obviously kind of have a conversation to you guys about the whole idea behind going back to school and getting back into a different routine. I think the biggest conversation I feel like here is going to be about getting back into routines and how to kind of establish yourself or setting yourself up for success.
Yes.
And so we're going to be covering, we're going to try to make this kind of a shorter podcast to literally go over, the specifics of maybe 4 or 5 tips that we can kind of talk about of getting back to school. So why don't you kind of give us the overview of everything we're going to be discussing here today?
Yeah, I think for sure those 4 or 5 tips, you know what? Let's shoot for 5. Let's go big or go home. We're going to come up with them, get excited. So this can apply to an athlete or the parents of an athlete, because the parents of an athlete also work out, but they also have to work around a busy schedule of an athlete. So let's talk about things of how we can get them back to schedule. So I think the first number 1 tip we can give is planning. I know personally, I've just started this myself. I put it on my fridge on a whiteboard, and I put proteins, carbs, and veggies. Mm-hmm. And I just put everything that we've meal prepped that week, so we know what we can just put in together. So we kind of batch cook it, kind of have it in big pots, not really individually pack it, because sometimes you want to change up the meal, you might want to change up the sauce, and just kind of have the basics.
Yeah, so that's good. I think we're going to break it down. So there's going to have 5 things. So literally, we're going to wing into those 5 things, and we're going to do the following. Number 1, we're going to talk about planning. Number 2, we're going to talk about meal scheduling and essentially trying to organize your food intake around your schedule, whether you're in high school, whether you are, high school is going to be a little bit different, but we're probably going to talk mostly about college students and people that are going back to classes, but they have a more flexible schedule. We can talk a little bit about high school athletes, because I know some people may listen to this and may have kids. And so forth. And then we're also going to talk about, so that's meal scheduling. We're going to talk about nutrition budgeting. So essentially how to establish specific, goals and the most important tips that I can kind of give you to ensure that you're not overspending, eating out, and what's kind of the limitations that you need to establish on that. And then we're just going to finish up with 5 with maybe the way to kind of stick to those goals and how to build them into routines.
Ooh,
sound good?
An accountability partner.
Yep.
And then eating out. So you're saying ramen isn't good for every meal?
Not necessarily. There's some carbs in there, but then it's there's the sodium, but then you're missing a bunch of different important things. But I've seen some really cool recipes that people make with ramen. So
really,
yeah.
Ooh, I'm excited to talk about that today.
I don't know them, but we'll see what we can kind of come up with. So
we'll figure it out.
We'll see how that kind of this process goes. So let's start off with planning. So what can you have to say about planning? Do you remember going back to school? Because here's the thing, I was not the healthiest when I was in college. I was too focused and deep into the books. I have a client who I've talked to yesterday who I work with a lot. He's actually going on his way to go to med school. And
congrats.
He's in depth into the books, and he stopped working out. He stopped focusing on nutrition because his just main focus is his career. And I wish I would have had somebody back then to tell me how to do things as far as nutrition, because I didn't understand the impact that it had on my productivity, on my nutrition, how I carried myself, and all these different things. And I feel in some way, shapes, or forms that affected, not necessarily because I got good grades and did all these different things, but obviously my health probably took a hit. So that's something that I wish I would have known. So now we're going to give you all these different tools, so maybe you can apply them, or if you're a parent, you can teach to your kids, or teach to, if you have kids in college. I do have clients that have kids in college. So how can you go about this stuff? So number one, planning.
Yes, I am actually working with a college student going back to school this week. And one goal I set with her was just to send me a picture of what her week looked like. So what I mean by that, what's she planning to do exercise-wise? What's her class schedule look like? How can we plan certain meals around certain times to really help her maximize her muscle building, fat loss, which is what she's looking for, and her athletic performance. And I think that really helped her out setting up. So we set up a time on Sunday. She's just going to send me a snapshot of what her week looks like. She tells me it takes her under 30 minutes to do. And it helps her feel like she has control of her schedule. And she really enjoys that, because this past week, she's been worried. She just texted me. She's running around with like a chicken with her head cut off because she didn't have the week planned. However, in the past, she did have her weeks planned and she felt more control. She was able to do everything she wanted to do and felt accomplished. So planning out your week or planning out what you're going to do, I think, is huge.
And how do you do that? So what's like kind of like the process that you take for that?
So what I tell her is look at what the most important goals are that you want to accomplish for this week. If it's going to the gym 5 times, is it meal prepping? Is it both of those? Is it going to your classes? Putting that in your schedule first, and then from there, filling in the rest of your schedule with other things. If you're someone who's trying to catch up on a series on Netflix, make sure you put that after you do your other top 3 priorities.
Yep.
So if meal prepping, class, and then working out are your 3 priorities, fill your schedule in first with that, and then put in Netflix and chill.
Okay, so those are like important aspects that I feel like are going to be key. As far as like planning on my end, what I like to recommend a lot of my clients is just to ensure they kind of have. I usually establish like 3 domains. So I say, when you're gonna plan your weeks, like you set goals, and when you set goals, you think about 3 domains that I like to kind of teach a lot of my clients, which is going to be nutrition, fitness or exercise, and then mindset or habits. So there's 3 things that you need to focus on, and then what kind of goal can you set for each one of them. So for example, for nutrition, is the goal going to be more focused on vegetable intake because you feel like you slacked on the previous week? So in order for you to make that goal happen, what is the planning process that needs to go into play, that needs to take place for that to happen? So for example, if vegetable intake is going to be your goal, then what are like the strategies that you need to implement? If you don't buy them, you won't eat them. If you're eating out, then how are you actually going to include that? So these are the things that, as part of your planning process, you need to ensure. So when you're planning and writing those grocery shopping lists, and that's your goal, then obviously this is the area that you need to kind of be focused on. So training, the same thing, and exercise. Like, if you want, what, this week is going to be crazy. Like, I'm trying to get my way around school, or like this new schedule. I want to make it to the gym, make realistic goals, like at least 3 times, not necessarily 7 days, 6 days, 5 days is what you're used to. But instead, like to say, for example, well, let's get back to school. I'm going to make it at least like 2 to 3 times this week. Find a time, like you said, put it on the schedule. Like I tell people, treat nutrition and training as like if you would, I never missed a class, or I always went to classes, but I know like a lot of you guys may skip classes, but treat this as it was something that is mandatory. It's a requirement, because now you make it a priority, and then now you're saying, you know what, let's plan my workouts, the times that I'm going to be doing all that kind of stuff, and I think that makes a difference. So number 1, planning. Yeah, and going back to what you said about your med school student client, I was just talking to a doctor about it. Like when you go to a doctor's office and they're more overweight than you are, and they tell you need to exercise and diet, it's like, where did you get that advice? Because it seems like you need it as well. So making sure you put yourself as a priority, because health is wealth. Yeah. And eating well will help you do well, not only in the field, in your performance, but also in your field, quote unquote, which is studying. So getting back to school and getting back to those priorities and knowing that that's what's going to help your performance academically. Yeah, so that's a big one too. Yeah. And then second one we talked about is scheduling. So scheduling goes along with planning as well. But I think for scheduling, a lot of times, like it's like when you begin the day, especially, you wake up and this is a big part too, is trying to develop good morning routines and then to add the scheduling portion of things and to determine what's first priority for that day. You have an essay that is due at 3 o'clock and you're procrastinating like we all do, and then you have to work on that. Well, you're going to have to, that's going to happen. So how are you organizing your nutrition around that to ensure that maybe that's a day where you have to schedule like shorter times for cooking or for prepping? So you need to think about the plan B's and C's that you have, like maybe a protein shake and a fruit option is going to be all it's going to take, but then it's going to be better than, spending all day without eating and then like binging after like you finish your essay, because you're just kind of like rewarding yourself and that, but then creating bad cycles in the process. So instead, waking up, I'm going to schedule my times and just going to dedicate time for like a protein shake and the fruit here, or I'm going to do this and this and that. I'm going to grab food from Chipotle because I don't have time to cook. Like those things are fine. You just need to be able to schedule in appropriately.
Yep, I agree with that. And as you know, my motto, hydrate or dihydrate, schedule your drinking schedule. Drinking water. Because a lot of people tend to forget it, especially you're in class. You may not bring a water bottle. So planning and scheduling, making sure you have that plan successfully set. You bring your water bottle. I've seen some people put on like jugs. They put like times on it. So by 9 o'clock, be this much done. By noon, this time, and so on and so forth. And if you're someone who's very forgetful, maybe putting a phone reminder on to remind you to drink water. And I've done that with clients, and it's worked very well, because after the first week, they don't want to keep getting those reminders. So they're like, that's right, I need to hydrate. So always scheduling that in as well, because sometimes when we're dehydrated, this performance goes down by 7 to 10%.
Yeah.
So if you're turning in what you feel is 100% your best effort paper and you get back a 90, that's a big difference in the long run, right? That's from sigma cum laude to just cum laude.
Being a big difference. So that's a big part, and making sure that you kind of like get the scheduling part done is going to be key to set you up for success. Because when I wake up and I don't have a plan, I don't have like a time blocks or just kind of things like this. Like today we had 10 to 1. We're just going to focus on massive content creation, and we just need to make sure that we do that and we stick to that. So that's a big part of it. Number 3, we talked about nutrition budgeting. Here's the thing about it. Like I hear all the time, especially from college students and people that are going back to school, like eating healthy is expensive. It's not expensive. You just make it expensive because you're not essentially like focusing too much on like the most important things. This is something I did back in college because somebody told me you should do this, and I taught it when I was working at UCF as a wellness dietitian. I met with a lot of students, and they are on tight budgets. A lot of times they are on, and maybe this is you or maybe your kids. If you're a parent, you are on let's say for example on what's it called, like financial aid. So you don't get a ton of money. And you just need to really be careful, or like maybe you're working and have a part-time job and things like this. Here's the thing, when I tell this to students, like you need to look into your bank account and you need to see where money's going, because I cannot. I did this once when I was in school, and I could not believe how much money I was spending on eating out. So whether it was grabbing food from like the food court, or buying like this little protein bar here, or doing all these different things, and it started to add up. Like I think a month I actually spent closer to $500 just eating food out in places without realizing it, because of the weekend hanging out with friends, and then I'm complaining that I'm broke and then I don't have money to eat healthy. A lot of times you just need to really audit your finances and to really understand exactly where your money's going, and then from that moment on, then you can kind of establish budgets. So
dude, I absolutely love that, because just going back, I know when I was in college, there was a Starbucks on the bottom floor of the library. I'd go there all the time to buy coffee, and it would add up and add up and add up. And I would say the same thing. And one day I was talking to my dad. I'm like, man, I don't know where all my money's going. He's like, how much do you spend on coffee? I'm like, that's a good question. And I started to add it up. And then he's like, how about you do this? You buy a thermos, you buy a coffee pot, and you make coffee at home. Put it in your thermos and carry it with you. Not only will you save time from going up and down my 7 or 8 floor library to the first floor to get coffee, but I'd have it with me at all times. So Starbucks, how much is a cup of coffee now? Like $5. So if you have 3 cups of coffee.
How much do you spend on those nitro cold today?
5 and change each. So $15 for 3 coffees. So think about that. It's $15 a day. How much could $15 buy you at a grocery store in coffee?
Oh, yeah.
A lot more than one day.
Yeah, probably like at least like 3 months worth of coffee. Like if you're just buying coffee with that money, so yeah, it's a big expense. And then now when it comes down to like now budgeting for when you're going to the grocery store, I remember and when I learned how to do this properly, I could live off of $60 a week on good sources of food. It was not super. There's not a whole variety, but at least I actually got enough vegetables. So I would spend, and I'll go to try to go. For example, in Orlando, they had the smaller markets, like, you know, that they sell produce with a lot cheaper. So I would spend maybe $20 to $25 on, you know, 4 or 5 different vegetable sources and fruits, and then the rest of it would be meats and some stuff. So again, it was very bland. I would just have rice, or, you know, I didn't have like any luxuries like quinoa or stuff like this. But then I would just have a good amount of stuff, and then just I wouldn't buy like expensive protein bars or things like this. But then I would get the basics, and that was enough for me to be able to kind of sustain myself on like $50 to $60 a week, sometimes a little bit more, but it depended. So that's one thing. Here's a tip that you can actually implement for yourself when you're trying to kind of cut out on expenses, because a lot of times when you go to the grocery store, you end up spending it without realizing it. And then when you're like scanning everything through, you realize like, oh shit, like I went, you know, ended up spending $120. A lot of times is like, number one, use cash and only bring what you're going to spend. So for example, you're bringing $70, you have all that, you leave your wallet in the car, or you leave your credit cards at home, whatever may be the case, and that's exactly what you're spending. You took the cash out. That time, if you're literally going through like the cash register and like you hit like $100, guess what? You're gonna be like, take this out, take this out, take this out, because you're sticking to your priorities and to your goals, finance wise. So that's one thing. It's important. The second thing, we live in a world of technology. So one thing that we started doing recently is we buy stuff on, you know, we do Instacart. Now I do spend $20 a month on the subscriptions for this stuff, so we can get free delivery, but it's worth it for me because I'm saving time and I'm consistently staying within my budget. Because the cool thing about when you're doing Instacart or Walmart delivery or Walmart pickup is the cool thing is you can see as you're starting adding options how much you have, you know, literally it's on your cart. So when you're going over, I guess like we're gonna take this out and we're gonna add this in. It makes it a little bit easier. You can buy produce, you can buy all kinds of different things like that. So ever since we started using that, which you can buy things from Costco, from we live in Florida, so Publix, and you can pick from different places, and you just need to have like a $30 minimum, so it's free delivery in some of the services. So it makes sense. So that's why one way that we can budget things out and we know exactly how we're spending before we spend it, and we're just a lot more smartly shopping instead of like, also when you're going to a grocery store, you're hungry, you buy things that you don't need.
Not only that, if you buy things that are pre-cut or pre-cooked, it's going to be more expensive because of the labor that goes into it. Mm-hmm. So trying to buy things that you can cook. So I also like to recommend getting like rotisserie chickens. I know they're already cooked, but they're also on the lower end spectrum. I would like to actually put out a challenge to you, Andres. When people finish listening to this podcast, they can reach out to us, and we're each going to have our own grocery list for $70 or $50 a week for like a college athlete. Which one do you think is more reasonable?
Let's do a $70 one.
Okay, $70, and just for one athlete for a week's worth of eating.
Yeah.
And we are going to send it out to you guys. Just reach out to us, and we will send it to you.
Good. There you go. We're gonna, he just put me to do extra work today, so let's just do it. We're gonna
content creation. That's what we said this was for.
We're gonna create a $70
grocery list.
Grocery list, and what you can do with it, and we can turn that into something bigger. So I think that's a good idea. So just reach out to us. Make sure we'll give you that. So
the back to school grocery list.
Back to school grocery list.
If you don't have it, you've already failed on the first 2 things we talked about: planning and scheduling. We're giving you the first 3 steps: budgeting, planning, and scheduling. All you have to do is reach out to us.
There you go. So that's number 3.
Eating out.
Well, number 4, eating out. So how do this goes in line with a lot of things that we talked about. Yep. I think we spend too much money eating out. Try to follow what we call, I like to call it the 80-20 rule. So 80-20 rule is try to make sure that 80% of the things that you're consuming are being prepared by you. Mm. So this is essentially, like from breakfast to lunch. So if you think about 21 meals out of the weekend or out of the week, so for example, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if you just kind of split it up that way, times 7 is going to be about 21. So 80% of 21 is going to be what, like 18, 17 or something like that. So that means that you're only reserving 4 total meals for the entire week to be eaten out as an optional thing. And then you kind of create a budget around that too. So for example, your budget is like, $12 per meal, then you're not going to be going to, a very fancy, expensive steakhouse, but instead you're doing things like Chipotle or bowl places and things like that.
Yeah, subs, whatever the local things around. I know here we have a fresh kitchen, and I know places, other colleges have like bowl places, like you said, have great options. So I 100% agree with that 80-20% rule.
And you define how many times, like, you define your budget. If you want to go lower than that, like, you go to a Chipotle, you can get a pretty cheap bowl if you don't do all the extras for like $6. So now you're doing like that 4 times. So that's like $24, only less than $100 per month that you're spending on eating out. And then the rest of it you're spending for obviously groceries and things like this. So that's kind of like how you organize this, is like being mindful of the kind of choices that you're making, but also to be on the health side, you also ensure that you're just limiting your eating out. Not only you're saving money, but also you're saving on your health because of the fact that you're kind of like cooking and preparing things on your own.
And just another quick tip on that, if you go to a bowl place, for example, a Chipotle, you can order the double meat and just get the rice and beans and split that meal. And now you have 2 meals. So you paid an extra $1 for the extra meat or however much it is. And you can have greens at home. And that way you can make it like a burrito bowl salad at home. So that way you can split it, take it home. And now you have 2 meals for the price of 1. That's just a simple, or any other bowl place.
That is a pretty good strategy. So we'll take that one. And then the last one we had was more about habit creation. And so this is really cool, because I think this is something that we all struggle about. Like when we go back to school, we're starting a whole new routine. So the question becomes, how do we stick to it? How do we stick? Like the biggest thing that we all struggle with is the fact that we don't stick to routines. We don't stick to goals. Like I cannot think about, I cannot count how many times when I was in college, I would spend a week going to the gym every day. And then the week after I had finals, so I was like, not going to go to the gym.
Yep.
And I did that over and over and over again. And I remember being super unsatisfied with my body image and stuff like that, but I was in school. Like that was my main thing at that point. So I didn't really care too much about it. So because I didn't really develop habits that were sustainable. So the biggest recommendation I can make to anybody listening to this, and this not only applies to going back to school, but just in general to habit creation, is going to be to, number 1, go easy on, or just be simple about the goals that you're creating. So for example, if you're literally going from 0 to trying to get back into the gym, making the goal of going 5 times this week is unrealistic. You may do it the first week, but you may not do it, consistently, because life will get in the way and you're not used to it. So instead, create smaller things. You're going to go to the gym once this week, and you're going to ensure that you do that for at least a month. You're feeling you want to accomplish something more, cool, you go too, but then that's the minimum. That's the goal you're establishing for yourself, and celebrate it if you actually accomplish it.
I 100% agree with that. Definitely putting it in your schedule, do small steps, but also finding an accountability partner. It may be with a coach like one of us, or finding a friend that goes to the gym with you, or a study buddy, right? Like making sure you always go with someone that can hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Now, making sure this accountability partner doesn't like to bring study beers to the library, make sure they bring study waters, all right? And making sure you stick to your goals, or to the gym, someone that's going to support you and your goals. So
that's a big one. So you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Ooh. So when you are in school, choose wisely, because if you choose to surround yourself with people that are, minded about their studies, but also minded about their health, and especially if you find people that are jacked and smart and fit, that's a great combo, because these are people that are prioritizing their studies, but also prioritizing their fitness and their health. And those are the people that you need to hang out with the most, because they're going to get you to a point that they're going to hold you accountable to it. Or maybe you are that person and you're trying to hold other people accountable in the process. Because believe it or not, us as coaches, when we have somebody else that we're let's say we're mentoring or we're holding accountable to the process, maybe that also kind of gets you into a responsibility role that you have to accomplish it. So even if you are that person and you now take somebody under your wing and say, you know what, I remember when I was in college, my cousin was going to UCF at the time, and he's like, I want to work out. I need a workout partner. I was like, cool, like we'll do it. Like I knew I had a responsibility with him to teach him and to do all these different things. So we would work out at 6 a.m. in the morning. Wow. Like if I would have been done alone, there's many times I would have been like, I'm not going to do this. Yeah. I'm not going to make it. But then I push myself to do it because I know that I had to be there for him. So, and that in my goals, my own self, like, you know, like my own fitness goals helped me a ton as well. So finding somebody that can help you be accountable in the process. That's why, for example, I like, and we just I know you started doing CrossFit too, is the fact that that's a place where people expect you to be, especially if you make friends in those kind of places. Again, this is a little bit more maybe for college students, maybe a little more expensive, but then just finding somebody that you can work out with and do things with that can actually help. Maybe it could be a roommate. Maybe it could be, the neighbor or a friend from class or something like this that you can definitely do that.
100%. Yeah, just finding someone that's going to text you in the morning and say, hey, buddy, clean it up and wake it up. Let's get to the gym.
Awesome. That's all we have for you guys here today. Like, hopefully this was like a very good practical tips that you can start to implement daily with whether you're a parent, like I said, with your kid, maybe send this over to them so they can kind of like listen to it. Or if you are a student, college student, or somebody that is doing classes, there's a lot of people that I coach that they do have full-time jobs and they still go to school. Again, there's a lot of stuff like this applies, and even more for you because you need to kind of create more organization around your nutrition, and that's a bigger goal in this process. So anything else you'd like to add here for today?
Just make sure to reach out to us for our grocery list, rate and review us, and best of luck this year in school. Make sure you get all A's, and if you need help setting up a plan, you know where to find us.
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Vive Nutrition Radio Chit Chat Series. We'll see you guys on the next one.
You have been listening to Vive Nutrition Radio. Couple of things before you take off. If you enjoyed this episode, please, I would love to get your feedback. So feel free to drop down a review, and I will be forever grateful. Also, if you like this podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We have it on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play. And lastly, if you would like to receive a freebie from me, make sure you sign up for our newsletter at www.vive-nutrition.com. See you guys in the next episode. Ciao, ciao.